think the paddling speed will be much of a difference. I think it's when you're up and on the wave, that's when you're going to feel the difference, really radically different.
So I wanted to go over the TJ Hull.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Hull Rider. Yep.
Yeah, the Hull Rider. So I was wondering if you can break down what a hull is, how it surfs different compared to like a normal surfboard. I guess a regular surfboard would be considered a planing hull, and this is more of a displacement hull, the exact opposite, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. And so what it is basically it has a belly down underneath the water. So the idea with that style of surfing, which Taylor's been using in a lot of competition, with the way that WSL is going for a more traditional platform in judging criteria, and that's how old school, boards back in the day, they started doing more concaves. I don't know, probably 80s and 90s, but for traditional longboarding, the hull with the big accentuated teardrop concave in the nose to kind of suck the nose onto the when you're up on the tip, to suck you into the face of the wave. But then the hull is sort of so you can do the swinging rail to rail swings, and then it kind of sucks you and holds you onto the curve of the face of the wave, so that when you're on the tip, that board has a lot of tail rocker, and then that combined with that hull is meant to actually kind of slow you down, to keep you in the position of where you're best going to be able to hold on to your nose ride.
Oh, so it has a teardrop concave coming through the bottom to slow the board down, so you're on the nose and lift. And then the rest of the bottom is what?
Is just all that belly, like kind of it's not a V, but it's the same idea as V, but just real rounded instead of a sharp V. Like the S Boss and Boss Up have a V with double barrel. So in other words, the stringer is lower in the water than the rail is. So opposite a concave, which is the stringer's up out of the water, so you're getting this crazy lift effect. And then this is more to like hold you into the curve of the wave, to keep the trimming and keep you at the speed of the wave instead of outpacing the wave. So it's a preferential what style of surfing you want to do. Like out in front of Waikiki and stuff like that. You don't want to outpace the wave. You want to stay in the pocket. Things like that. Traditional boards work really well on those types of soft waves.
Oh, so on a hull bottom, you would think, most people would think it's rounded on the bottom. It's going to totally slow the board down. How are you going to paddle into the wave? And when you're turning, it seems like it would drag a lot. And that's why it seems like most boards nowadays are a planing hull. So you want it to, lift and get down the line.
Yes. And so that's why it's kind of, it's cool because that was the challenge for me, was to get out of that headspace and into the headspace of using the rails and using the concave for what the intention of the surfer was. And in this case, it was tailored to be able to hold the nose rides longer, stay close to the pocket on the softer waves, so that you're going to be able to not project out, so that you're not outpacing the wave. And so you're staying in the pocket, and you're doing those pivotty churns, like rail to rail swinging churns in the pocket zone. You see the videos of him surfing it, and it's like it's not projecting the speed. It's controlling and managing the speed in the pocket style.
When somebody gets on one of your nose rider boards and then they get on this board, and when they're paddling it, the biggest thing that they'll feel is the way it feels rounded. And are they going to have a hard time trying to get into the wave or something like that? Because
I don't think the paddling speed will be much of a difference. I think it's when you're up and on the wave, that's when you're going to feel the difference, really radically different. Because paddling speed, so the concave and the hull design doesn't really probably kick in until about 6 miles an hour, kind of a thing. That's what I've noticed with the paddleboarding, prone paddle racing I do, is the bottom contours. I put a crazy bottom contour on those boards. And I don't think really until you're on, like when I'm going down swell, or in this case on the wave with the Hull rider, you're not going to, those bottom, the effects of the bottom concave aren't going to kick in until you're up over a certain speed, which is when you're on the wave, catching the wave 6 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. That's when you're going to really feel the difference of the whole variation in that case. You're not going to notice it so much on the paddling, but you will notice that it's pretty voluminous. And so the lot of volume and all that stuff per your weight will enable you to paddle pretty fast. It's a fast paddling board.
Wow. That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, no, it's a funny thing. Like, so like with sailboats, you want to cut the water, and paddle boards, you want to cut the water, but you also don't want to be stuck. So that if you're slicing through, you don't want to be clapping, you know? And this board's like the opposite of like a sailboat. It's like you want to be able to like hold your speed and not be projected out too far out ahead of it.
Wow.
Yes, but you get the paddling effect is going to be, you know, it's going to be more of a result of your weight on the volume of the board, because the concave, you know, the way the hull is, it's not going to really have that dramatic of an effect on that speed at 4 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour, you know, when you're paddling back out. I don't know if that makes sense.
So, you know, you were mentioning paddleboarding. I don't think a lot of people know that you do a lot of paddleboarding, prone paddling and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about a little bit about your prone paddling experience and how long you've been doing it? And, you know, you're talking about the miles per hour and stuff like that. I'm sure you have some kind of a gauge on there or something like that.
Yeah, GPS out on the front. Yeah, I stare at it. I call it my coach. It's a GPS watch right on the front, right where I'm laying down. But yeah, it's an old sport. It goes back to like pre-World War II. Duke and Tom Blake did it a lot. A lot of inter-island in Hawaii races, and the Molokai race is the most famous. I'm actually going to come out on the 4th of July and do a race on the North Shore from Turtle Bay to Waimea. Yeah, it's an old classic sport. It's under the radar. Stand-up paddling kind of took all the spotlight, which was good. I think most people in prone paddling like that. Most people who do the racing are low-key. Australia dominates Molokai, the Molokai race. That comes up usually the end of July. Yeah, but you want to be able to lay down stomach, paddle really fast, and you also want to kneel paddle. So it's a discipline that requires, if you're going to be competitive on the racing side, you want to be able to get up and down efficiently, smooth. You want your board to be, I think, on the more light side, but you got to, like I was trying to explain, I don't know how well I did, but you want to do a cross between cutting the water and being up above it on top of the water. So it's a tricky balance on the design of the board style, but I make those boards and really learn a lot on how to get through the water quicker for surfboards and paddleboards by making those boards. But yeah, it comes down, the main reason I like it is it keeps me ready for surfing. So like as long as I'm paddling and maintaining, 2 or 3 paddles a week year round, if the surf gets really good and I want to stay out for 3 or 4 hours, or if I go on a trip to Indonesia or something, hopefully someday soon, I'm ready. And especially as I get older, it's, less motivating to surf every day on the grindy little small waves. It complements surfing. And I whenever I see someone who's any bit interested, I say, do it, do at least a couple races, train a little bit, just to learn about that part of surfing, because it's so overlooked. This paddling speed, I look at people learning, and with the coaching and online instructions that people get, they all are learning how to stand up and maneuver, and they're learning about boards and fins and all these things, but man, they're forgetting the most fundamental thing about being able to catch a lot of waves, which is paddling. Yeah. And so they're not working on their strength and not working on their power and the timing of when to really push to catch a wave. And you learn all that, and it gets drilled into you when you prone paddle.
Wow.
So yeah,
so
those are all the.
I know we're off topic, but when you're paddling, how are your hands? Are they wide, cup? How are you digging into it? And are you using, maybe a little coaching us
Yeah.
here.
So the hand, apparently, so that's another thing talking about the hull and concave versus a belly board is apparently the hand. This is I learned from swimmers. So the hand being spread out or keeping your hands tight together. With the way we're pulling the water through, we're pulling our hand through the water, I should say. You don't want them completely cupped and tight, and you don't want them too spread out. It's like a nice like balance in the middle where you want your hand firm but not too rigid. And it really becomes a real subtle, nuanced thing as you pull your hand through the water. You're adjusting your fingers and all that stuff after I've been doing it since '91 was my first race with PD Johnson out there in North Shore Way. Did a Catalina race, which is from the island of Catalina off Los Angeles back to the mainland of Los Angeles. But so your stroke is like that. You do like freestyle swim or like a regular surfboard paddle, alternating arms on your stomach. And then some guys do double arm. You see some old school guys do double arm prone to catch waves. And then you kneel paddle, and your hands are about the same. Guys that are bigger and more like a lot of Olympic swimmers come into paddling, and those guys have so much efficiency and power in their arms and their hands from swimming so much that they take a slower stroke. And I've noticed that surfers are more high pace, more like a cadence on a bicycle race.
Yeah.
When you see smaller guys like turning over their wheels real quick, their pedals, versus a guy who's like grinding out the pedals a little slower. So both of those styles are represented in the races, but the guys who win, the big Australians and the big swimmer guys, usually have a pretty long, slow draw. They're pulling a lot of water through instead of high reps.
Wow. So they're really like grabbing the water and just like really working with the water, not trying to comb through the water.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Oh,
that's perfect. Great explanation.
Wow.
Yeah,
and then there.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It really helps surfing. And so on the North Shore, that race will be more than likely, hopefully, a nice downwinder. And Molokai, it's like not perfectly downwind. The wind kind of comes in at your like 4 o'clock, but you're catching waves like this and then going down. It's like and you're trying to link them up and stay on them as long as possible.
Yeah.
But then it takes a lot of energy to catch them, so you don't want to burn yourself out. It's all pacing, and you learn a lot. It's pretty really fun sport. Very pure sport. There's no subjectivity. Either you win or the other guy wins.
So with this, going back to the board, when you turn this board, do you have to like really step on the tail like a log, or can you be a little bit more center? Or
well, the whole idea is to have that sweet spot be pretty wide. So if you want to, like, Taylor will be way back and kick stall it and have his foot way back, and then to do those big sweeping turns, he'll have his foot pretty far back. But the idea is that's the other benefit of that displacement hull, I guess it would be, is that it has a really nice wide spot, so you can tip the board and drive your turn from that position as much as you can from the tail, driving it like you would with a regular high performance board.
Oh, so
does that make sense?
Yeah. So the rails, from the back, from the center of the board, is it more like a 50-50 kind of a rail, or is it just, is it?
50-50, and that hull kind of comes up to meet the bottom edge. Doesn't really have an edge except for the back behind the fins.
Oh.
And then if you're up on the nose, you're gonna be trimming. That's what Mickey Dora always talked about. He's like, it's all about the trimming. Like, and if you get up on that nose, that lift and that planing will that's when you generate speed. That's when you start really gunning and linking connections. You don't have to be on the tip for that. That's why that big teardrop is back and down. You want to be able to be up on the right part of the wave and be up on that concave, and that's when you're going to be linking sections and going for speed. And then you drop back to do your pivot turns or cutbacks or whatever. But yeah, that's the whole idea. It's you're getting a lot of lift out of that concave, so that you're not gonna get this board and start pumping it down the line.
So
You're
compared
going to
to
be
like
using
a
the finesse of your positioning.
yeah, so compared to like a normal traditional log, do you think this is a lot easier to ride? As in,
Yeah. Well,
is it? It's
yeah,
pretty much a log.
it's quite forgiving. It's a log. It's a full-on. It's meant to be
Yeah.
real traditional.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's meant to be like real forgiving, easy to hop onto and get used to, and then you develop your repertoire from there. You know, so like if you're a high performance guy coming into this, that it'll be like you can't do your, you know, hopping. You can't do your pumping. You have to work on your technique. It's more of a technical. If you're coming from the performance board side, you have to tone down and really
You gotta chill.
Yeah, you got to chill and really feel what's going on underneath your feet on the wave and on the board with the way they're going together. Versus, you know, you might be able to overpower with another board. You might be able to compensate, I guess, with some of the other, you know, features of a performance board. I think we've learned a lot, but this is like a cool traditional, really learn a lot about your fin. So like Taylor rides it as a single fin mostly, and you start moving that fin forward, you get a little more release, and you move it back and you feel it lock in like a little more hard to maneuver, which could be good for nose riding. Like a lot of the traditional logs are really push back fins, and that's to lock you in for tip rides.
Yeah, like a New Eva nose rider or something.
Yeah.
Way in the tail.
That's who inspired the concave. His Nueva's nose concave is I watched the guy shape a lot of his boards. So yeah, that's one of my inspirations. So, but yeah, and then so single fin guys know about. I was just talking to a guy who's a single fin guy, and he's like, yeah, no, single fin guys know more about fins than thruster guys because they just throw them in and go, and they like them or not, but they don't know about the positioning and the importance of moving it to cluster further forward or back as much as single fin guys do.
So your side fins, is it like in a normal position, or did you move it up like most of your boards you do?
Yeah, they're up for compared to other people, but they're about the same for all the other, like the gym and those other boards. It's about the same. I think it's about 18 inches. Yeah, 18 inches. So. And then, but you get a big difference in feel when you move your center fin in relation to those fins.
What kind of fin do you recommend? Like a pivot fin, or more of like a raked out, like a 4A or something like that? Or
yeah, I like the raked out ones myself because that goes with what you're trying to achieve with all the other features of the design.
Yeah.
But again, I would say, like I do with all the other boards, start with if you have a favorite fin and the board's similar to what you are used to, start with your favorite fin and then go from there. Yeah. But yeah, I think the tendency would be to have a bigger, more raked out fin for the shape, and then tune it in the box on forward or back for what you like, and don't be afraid to mess around with it, especially the first week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks that you have it.
The construction, it's the helium construction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you made the board, did you kind of think about where the stringer would start tapering off, and then you would tell them where to position it?
Yeah, they're all really checked out on that, and so like they work mostly with Taylor on that because he's gonna ride the nose a lot more than me. That's why I referenced Mickey Dora, because he said trim, so you don't have to actually be on the nose, and I was like, cool, because I can't get out there anyway. I like just trimming anyway. But yeah, the taper of all that's meant to like go with, you know, where the pressures are, just like our other constructions. All of your positioning and load points and stuff are taken into consideration. So
right on. Did you want to add anything about the board?
No, I don't think so. It was fun. It was really fun for me designing it with Taylor, because it was outside 10 years ago. He and I weren't even thinking about these kinds of boards, and so to start kind of getting my head around it, like it was a whole nother bag of tricks that I had to go learn and pull from. And I'd been familiar with it, watching guys shape traditional boards like Mike Eaton and those kinds of guys shaping Bings, and but I hadn't really developed it until this board with Taylor. So it was just a fun experiment, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. The results, great. So,
do you think that changed your perspective about some of the fun boards or short boards that you might shape in the future?
maybe, yeah. And I think there would be an opportunity for this kind of board in like a 7.0, kind of fun zone like that,
Yeah.
6.6, for sure. And yeah, it's good. It's always good, even if I'm not like comfortable with it at first. I really like the process of being forced to learn new things, and so yeah, it would be a fun experiment. He's all about the TJ mid pro right now, but maybe we need to do a whole mid,
Yeah.
7.0. Yeah. So
Right on. Hey, thank you very much, man. I always
welcome.
appreciate it, man. I know you were busy, but yeah.
No, I appreciate your time too. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing all this all the time.
All right.
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
Dave. Okay.